being prepared when disaster strikes can mean the difference between life and death for yourself and for your family. The information contained in this video is intended to help you make important decisions which will affect your welfare and possibly even your survival in the event of an emergency. Many vital aspects of our daily lives can be disrupted by a variety of natural or man-made disasters. Our supply of drinking water, for example, could be interrupted for a few hours by a water main break or for days or weeks in the event of a hurricane or earthquake. We can live for weeks without food, but only a few days without water. Since a contaminated water supply can result from many different causes, obtaining safe drinking water is a very high priority in emergency situations. Water sources such as lakes, rivers, and streams may look clean, but probably contain microorganisms that can make you sick. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency reports that 90% of the world's fresh water supply is contaminated. In times of emergency, even tap water can be unsafe to drink. Listen to your local radio station to find out if there are any problems with your water filtration plant. If the plant experiences a prolonged power outage, it may be unable to maintain normal safety standards for the water supply. Sources of emergency water include rain and clean snow. You can also drain the water from your water heater, but you may want to filter it before using, since it could contain some sediment. Any time that you are uncertain of the purity of your water, be sure to treat it before you drink it. If the water you are planning to use looks cloudy, the first step in treating it should be to pour it through a coffee filter or a piece of cloth to remove any solid particles. Never try to treat water that smells of petroleum. One method of obtaining safe water is through the use of a water filter. A filter which you may have on your kitchen faucet was made to clean already treated water and may not remove many bacteria and viruses. Instead, you may wish to use a portable water filter designed for camping. Keep in mind that all water filters are not equally effective in removing harmful microorganisms. The Environmental Protection Agency has established guidelines for water purifiers. These are water filters which eliminate almost all harmful microorganisms in each of the three categories: protozoa, bacteria, and viruses. Some water filters only remove protozoa, which are the largest, while others also remove bacteria. Viruses are too small to be physically removed by filters, so a chemical disinfectant is typically included in water purifiers. Before deciding on a water filter, be sure to find out how well it meets the EPA standards. Water filters also vary considerably in terms of cost, speed, capacity, and ease of cleaning, so shop carefully to find one that suits your needs and your budget. Be sure to carefully follow the manufacturer's directions for using, cleaning, and storing your filter. For treating water, the American Red Cross recommends that you bring water to a rolling boil for 1 minute. After boiling, let the water cool for at least 30 minutes and add 16 drops of liquid chlorine bleach for each gallon of water. Then stir. Make sure that the only ingredient in the bleach is 5.25% sodium hypochlorite and that there are no added fragrances or soap. Let the treated water stand for 30 minutes. If it smells of chlorine, it is safe to drink. If not, add 16 more drops of liquid bleach. Stir, and let sit another 15 minutes. If there still is no chlorine smell, do not drink the water. You must find another source. You can write down the Red Cross water treatment steps and tape them to your emergency bleach bottle, along with an eyedropper. Liquid bleach breaks down over time, so replace it every 3 months and store it in a cool, dry place. To improve the taste of boiled water, add oxygen to it by pouring the water back and forth between 2 clean containers. Iodine tablets are sold in camping supply stores as a water treatment, but they do not kill all organisms and should not be used by pregnant or nursing women, or by anyone with a thyroid, liver, or kidney condition. Consult your physician if you have any questions concerning their use. Both chlorine and iodine treatments are meant for short-term use only. You may want to check with your local health department to see what they recommend for treating drinking water in your area. And if you have children under 1 year of age, ask your pediatrician for advice. You can also choose to store water ahead of time. Allow at least 1 gallon per person per day. You can buy commercially bottled drinking water, or you can store your own water in clean, food-grade quality plastic bottles. Only use containers with tight-fitting screw caps. Be sure never to store water in a container which has held any toxic substance. Tap water may be preferable to bottled water for long-term storage, since tap water has been treated with chlorine, which kills microorganisms. You can also add commercially available water treatment products, which put oxidizers into the water and kill bacteria, viruses, and protozoa. These also improve the taste and increase the shelf life of stored water. Store your water in a cool, dark place to help prevent algae growth, and replace the water every 6 months. If you live in a warm climate or store your water in a warm location, replace it every 3 months. During an emergency, obtaining and preparing food can also become difficult. If your power goes off, eat any perishable foods first, including the food in your refrigerator. Next, eat the food in your freezer. Frozen foods can keep for a few days without power, but don't open the freezer any more than necessary. If the frozen food still contains ice crystals, it should be safe to eat. If you have any doubts whether a food is safe to eat, discard it. Non-perishable food from your pantry should be eaten next. Be sure to have a manual can opener on hand. Many of these foods, such as juice, canned fruits and vegetables, ready-to-eat cereal, crackers, tuna, and peanut butter, need no preparation. Others, such as cups of dried noodles or soups, require only boiling water to prepare. In addition to the foods you normally keep on hand, you may wish to store an emergency reserve supply. Avoid foods that are high in salt or fat content. Plan on 3 meals per person per day. And remember that the average adult requires around 2,000 calories each day. Be sure to include protein, grains, dried beans, fruits, vegetables, and dairy products. For proper nutrition, you will need to have a variety of foods from each group. As extra insurance, it might be wise to store vitamin supplements for your family also. Keep in mind any special dietary needs, as well as your family's food preferences. And don't forget comfort foods, such as cookies, instant cocoa and coffee, tea, and candy. These can be very welcome in stressful times. Both the taste and the nutritional value of foods will deteriorate over time, so remember to rotate your stored food, using up items and replacing them every 6 months or so. Write the purchase date on each product, or if you purchase and store food in batches, you can use different colors of stick-on dots to color-code each batch. Do not attempt to store any canned products if the can has been dented, as there will be a higher likelihood of spoilage. Storing new purchases at the back of your existing supplies makes rotating easy. Just use the foods in front first. For maximum storage life, keep canned and packaged food in a cool, dry place, away from sunlight. Ideally, the temperature should stay between 40 and 70 degrees at all times. Do not store food directly on concrete or dirt surfaces, as that can cause moisture buildup, leading to mold or rust problems. Protect the food from contamination by animals or insects. If bugs or high humidity are a problem where you live, you may want to take extra precautions, such as rotating your foods more often, and storing items such as flour, pasta, cornmeal, and rice in airtight containers. For lower maintenance long-term storage, you may wish to consider the large selection of freeze-dried and dehydrated foods which is available. Both freeze-drying and dehydrating are processes which remove most of the water from foods. The resulting products take up less storage space and have a longer shelf life than fresh or canned food. In freeze-drying, food is flash frozen and then placed in vacuum chambers where the moisture is evaporated with the aid of low-level heat. This process preserves much of the original nutrition, color, flavor, texture, and aroma of the food. There is a wide variety of freeze-dried foods, including pre-cooked meats, entrees, side dishes, vegetables, and desserts. Since they are often sold in lightweight pouches and require only water to prepare, these foods have been popular with campers and hikers for years. Larger multi-serving cans are also available, which can have a shelf life of up to 15 years. Pouches which include an oxygen-absorbing packet have a shelf life of 3 to 5 years, but take care not to puncture the pouches. The somewhat higher cost of freeze-dried foods can be offset by their ease of preparation and the variety they can add to your menu. Dehydrated food has had moisture removed at temperatures below cooking level. Foods which are commonly dehydrated are fruits, vegetables, and milk. Perhaps less familiar are dehydrated margarine, eggs, and cheese, all of which would be impractical to try to store long-term if fresh. Foods made of texturized vegetable protein are also available dehydrated and can provide a convenient meat substitute. These items may require more preparation than canned or freeze-dried foods, but they are economical, and in combination with staples such as grains, rice, and beans, they form a sound base for any long-term food storage program. Although no stored food lasts forever, commercially dehydrated products can have a shelf life of 15 years or more. Packaging techniques have a great impact on how long foods will keep. Look for freeze-dried and dehydrated foods packed in double enamel cans, enamel on both the inside and the outside of the can, for greatest longevity. The oxygen content of the food also affects its shelf life, so look for products with a maximum oxygen content of 2%. A stable oxygen level this low can be achieved by flushing the can with nitrogen and adding an oxygen-absorbing packet. Check the manufacturer's literature concerning their food selection, quality control, packing procedure, oxygen content, nutritional values, and recommended shelf life of their products. Some people may wish to preserve their own food for future use, either by canning or dehydrating. There are many resources available to teach you the proper techniques, but bear in mind that the shelf life of these foods will not be as long as for the commercially processed versions. Canned foods do not need to be cooked before eating, although some may not taste as good if they are eaten cold. Freeze-dried food requires water to prepare, but does not need to be cooked. Most dehydrated foods will require extra water, as well as a way to cook them. You may want to practice preparing your freeze-dried or dehydrated food before an emergency situation occurs. Charcoal and gas barbecue grills are fine for emergency food preparation, but they should only be used outdoors. Not only are they a fire hazard, but they also produce high levels of deadly carbon monoxide gas. If necessary, a camp stove can be used indoors, but be careful to provide plenty of ventilation and keep a fire extinguisher nearby. For any of these, you will need to store extra fuel and observe proper safety precautions. And don't forget plenty of waterproof matches. A note of caution. In extreme situations, if you have food but no water, do not eat. The body requires water in order to digest food, so eating can increase your need for water. Be sure you have at least 2 quarts of drinking water per day. You may want to keep a supply of paper towels, paper plates and cups, and plastic tableware on hand to save on washing up if water is scarce. Also, be sure to have sturdy, covered garbage containers and plenty of garbage bags and ties, in case garbage pickup is disrupted. An electrical outage can be caused by many problems, ranging from weather-related events to local or regional power problems. Normally, electrical power is restored in a few hours at most. Listen to a battery-operated radio to find out how widespread the power outage is and how long it is expected to last. If electrical power could be disrupted for a long period of time, having alternative heat and light sources readily available is very important. During cold temperatures, the loss of heat can create serious problems, especially for the very young and the elderly. Wear extra layers of clothing, such as sweaters and sweatshirts, indoors. Try to stay in a room near a heat source and close off as many other rooms as possible. Keep a supply of blankets and sleeping bags close by, to provide an additional layer of insulation. Wood stoves, fireplaces, and kerosene or propane heaters can all help you stay warm, but keep any flammable materials at least 3 feet away. Take extra precautions if you have pets or young children to keep them from being burned. If you have a wood-burning stove or fireplace, it's a good idea to have the pipes or chimney cleaned periodically. A substance called creosote can build up in vent pipes and chimneys, causing a fire. Burn only dry wood, since green wood with a high moisture content causes creosote to build up quickly. Store firewood away from your home in an open area. Firewood is a potential fire hazard and should never be stored under porches, decks, or in carports. Portable kerosene and propane heaters pose the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning and should only be used in a well-ventilated area. Be sure to follow the manufacturer's operating instructions and also keep a battery-operated carbon monoxide detector nearby. Remember to store extra fuel for your heater in approved containers and keep them in a well-ventilated area outside of your living space to reduce the risk of fire. Never try to use a gas stove or a charcoal or gas grill to heat your house. You may want to have several flashlights on hand to provide light in case your power goes off. You will need extra flashlight bulbs, as well as plenty of batteries. Since batteries don't last forever, be sure to check the expiration dates and replace them as necessary. Candles are not as good a choice for light because of the fire danger. Lanterns also pose a fire risk and produce deadly carbon monoxide gas. When using any type of lantern, be very careful not to place it near flammable material. The heat from a lantern rises, so keep it at least 3 feet below the ceiling as well. If you decide to use lanterns, have a carbon monoxide detector and a fire extinguisher nearby. Also, make sure you have extra wicks and mantles for your lantern, in addition to a supply of fuel. If a power outage occurs during daylight hours, take a few minutes and place your emergency heat and lighting supplies in a convenient location, along with a fire extinguisher. Some people decide to install an alternative power source which they can use when normal electrical service is disrupted. In planning for alternative power, there are several options, including generators and power inverters. Depending on your location, you may also be able to take advantage of renewable sources, such as solar, wind, or hydroelectric energy. A generator can provide electrical power to run lights, motors, and appliances in your home during a power outage. Some generators are designed for short, intermittent use and may not function properly over extended periods. Generators also vary in the amount and quality of electrical power they produce. Power which is capable of running your refrigerator may not be suitable for your computer or other electronic equipment. Before you purchase a generator, check with a licensed electrician to determine your specific needs. Generators should be sized for the amount of power needed. A small gasoline generator will not power a home's entire electrical needs. An electrician can install a sub-panel, which will direct power to a limited number of essential uses. Never plug a generator directly into an electrical outlet during a power outage. The demand from home appliances may exceed the generator's capabilities, causing it to fail. There is also a danger to power company workers trying to restore your power if they come in contact with electricity being sent down the power lines by your generator. To prevent this from happening, have a licensed electrician install a transfer switch, which will isolate your generator from the power lines coming into your home. Generators can be powered by either natural gas, propane, gasoline, or diesel fuel. Take proper precautions in using and storing these combustible materials, and remember to replace them as necessary. Untreated gasoline stored above ground should be replaced every 3 to 4 months, while untreated diesel fuel can last slightly longer. There are commercial products available to extend fuel storage life. Generators should only be used in a well-ventilated area outside your home due to the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. Contact your local fire department concerning regulations for generator use and fuel storage. Although more expensive than generators, an inverter system can be an excellent source of electrical power during power outages. Inverters typically take electric power from a direct current source, such as a bank of batteries, and convert it to 110-volt alternating current. This makes it possible to use the power from batteries for furnace pumps, lights, and to run the appliances in your home. The battery bank can be recharged using a fuel-powered generator, solar power cells, or a wind generator. A small inverter system can supply enough power to run the heat pump for your furnace, while a large system could handle many of your household needs. Changing your regular light bulbs to low-wattage fluorescent bulbs can provide your customary amount of lighting while reducing your energy needs. Some inverter systems monitor the quality of normal electrical power to your home and can sense power spikes, interruptions, and high or low voltage problems. These inverters can charge a battery bank during normal times and then automatically switch over when needed to provide your home with stable electrical power. Like generators, inverters must be sized for their specific application. The amount of power and the length of time the power will be available is dependent on the size of the inverter and battery bank. Also like generators, inverters vary in the quality of alternating current they produce. Check with a licensed electrician about your specific needs. The danger of fire and injury to you and your family increases during a disaster. Make sure your home has battery-operated smoke and fire alarms installed on every level, including basements, attics, stairways, and outside every sleeping area. You might also want to put one in each bedroom for maximum protection. Replace the batteries every 6 months, and the alarm itself every 10 years. It's also a good idea to have a fire extinguisher on every floor of your home, plus one in the kitchen and garage. Check the gauge on your fire extinguisher every month, and replace or recharge as necessary. Read the manufacturer's instructions and be sure you know how to use the fire extinguisher. A general-purpose ABC fire extinguisher will put out most fires, including wood, paper, plastic, grease, fuel, and electrical. Teach your family members the PASS technique for fire extinguisher operation. Pull the pin. Aim at the base of the fire, being sure to stay at least 6 feet away. Squeeze the handle. Sweep the base of the fire from side to side. Another increased risk is the danger of carbon monoxide poisoning. Carbon monoxide, or CO, is an invisible, odorless, poisonous gas which is produced by burning fuel. It interferes with the blood's capacity to carry oxygen and can be fatal when inhaled. Symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning include dizziness, fatigue, headache, nausea, and confusion. Prolonged low-level exposure can be as dangerous as a brief high-level exposure. Unborn babies, young children, pregnant women, senior citizens, and people with heart or respiratory problems are particularly at risk. A battery-operated CO detector is the best defense against carbon monoxide poisoning. You should have one in or near each bedroom and living area. For the greatest protection, choose an alarm that provides a digital display for both peak-level memory and the current CO level. Follow the manufacturer's directions for installation and use. Carbon monoxide poisoning can result from poorly ventilated water heaters, furnaces, lanterns, and fireplaces. Whenever you use alternative sources for heat or light, check the reading on your CO detector on a regular basis. Also keep in mind that natural gas and propane are not interchangeable fuels. If you have an appliance that operates on natural gas, do not attempt to convert it to run on propane for emergency use. Since normal fire, rescue, and medical care may not be available during a disaster, it is important for you to be prepared to handle some situations on your own. If at all possible, take basic first aid, CPR, and fire safety classes. Also, be sure to have a well-stocked first aid kit on hand. These are available commercially, or you can assemble your own. Consult a first aid manual for items to include. In addition to first aid supplies, you will want to have any prescription and non-prescription medicine that your family members normally use. Include such items as aspirin and non-aspirin pain relievers, anti-diarrhea medicine, antacids, laxatives, and cold remedies. Depending on your needs, you may also want to have extra eyeglasses, contact lenses and supplies, heart or high blood pressure medicine, seasonal allergy medication, insulin, denture supplies, and hearing aid batteries. Be sure to check with your doctor if you have any disabilities or special health care needs. During an emergency, getting accurate news and information is very important. Many radio and television stations have emergency generators that will provide power to the station for several days. The telephone system is normally powered by batteries that are charged by commercial electric power. During power outages, these batteries are charged by generators, allowing telephone service to continue for several days after the power has failed. Cordless phones and some PBX systems that require electric power may be susceptible to failure, though, even when the phone system is working. During prolonged power outages, both regular and cellular telephones may not work. To ensure your ability to obtain news about an emergency situation, keep a battery-operated combination AM, FM, and shortwave radio in your home, along with a supply of extra batteries. In an emergency or during severe weather, the Emergency Alert System, or EAS, may be activated. Every radio and television station and many cable and satellite systems broadcast EAS messages. These can provide you with important information for your area. The EAS can be activated on either the local or national level. In the event of a national emergency, the President can access the EAS to speak to the country. If a region is without power and local radio, television, and cable broadcasts cannot be received, a shortwave radio receiver can provide you with the ability to hear radio signals from around the world.
You're listening to Radio Netherlands, the Dutch international service.
There are many radio stations, similar to AM stations, that reach a global audience through shortwave radio. Stations such as the BBC, the Voice of America, and Radio Canada International can be heard with a portable receiver. Sometimes, shortwave radio signals can fade in and out and are subject to atmospheric noise, especially when a thunderstorm is near. In addition to the broadcast stations, a shortwave radio gives you the ability to listen to amateur radio operators around the world. They provide vital emergency communications locally, nationally, and internationally in times of disasters, and can be a good source for important news. When communications are disrupted, amateur radio could be a critical resource. A new simplified licensing test is now offered, which will permit you to go on the air.
This is 856 Echo X-ray. Certainly happy to be able to work.
Also, new technology permits combining shortwave and VHF transceivers into one compact radio, which allows you to communicate both locally and internationally. Some shortwave radios have the ability to receive single sideband transmissions, which will allow you to hear maritime, aeronautical, and military communications from around the world. While the sideband signals may at first sound garbled, when slowly tuned in, they can provide you with important information during a widespread emergency. There are many books and magazines available which list frequencies for different types of radio communications. Another important source of information is the National Weather Service's NOAA network of nearly 500 weather radio stations, which broadcast continuous weather information. These VHF radio stations have a range of about 40 miles and provide important warnings and advisories during severe weather. They also provide warnings and post-event information for other types of hazards, such as earthquakes and chemical spills. Look for a NOAA weather radio, which has a battery backup, as well as a feature called SAME, or Specific Area Message Encoding.
This is a bulletin. High wind warning continues until 3 p.m. for the Front Range foothills.
SAME will automatically sound an alert when a watch or warning is issued for your county. For keeping in touch in your community, you may want to investigate Citizens Band Radio, or CB. CB radio communication is usually limited to line of sight, but if conditions permit, CB signals can travel around the world. There are times that communication on Citizens Band can be very noisy and have limited range due to many signals being transmitted on the same frequency at the same time. Other forms of two-way radio communications with limited range but less potential interference are the family radio service and the general mobile radio service. They provide local communications through walkie-talkie radios and can be very useful for communicating with family members and friends in your community. Their range is also limited by line of sight. Emergency responders such as police, firefighters, and medical services transmit on the VHF and UHF radio bands.
740 Barberry Avenue. Have an RP sitting.
A battery-operated scanner will let you listen to these emergency services, as well as to aircraft, trains, amateur radio operators, and NOAA weather radio stations. Having battery-operated radios will give you the ability to hear what is happening, both locally and around the world. Don't wait for an emergency to occur. Take some time now to decide what kind of communications equipment you want to have and learn how to operate it. Water and sewer service can be disrupted by a variety of events, so proper sanitation is very important. You may want to consider having some waterless, antibacterial hand soap, cleansing towelettes, liquid chlorine bleach, disinfectant, and rubber gloves. Personal hygiene and sanitary supplies are also good items to have on hand, so that you don't run out at an inconvenient time. Extra soap, deodorant, shampoo, toilet paper, and feminine supplies are easy to store. Allow at least one roll of toilet paper per person per week. If you have an infant, you will want to have plenty of disposable diapers and baby wipes, as well as baby bottle liners, formula, and baby food. You may decide to have a toolkit available. It should include a hammer and nails, a shovel, a crowbar, plastic tarps, and duct tape. You may also want to have a few sheets of plywood and a shutoff wrench. Personal and financial records can easily be lost in an emergency situation. Make copies of your medical records, driver's license, passport, deeds, wills, tax records, bank account and credit card numbers, and insurance policies, as well as birth, marriage, and death certificates. Take these with you if you have to evacuate. Keep the originals in a safe deposit box and give an extra copy to a friend or relative who lives out of town. You should also keep a list of essential telephone numbers with your important papers. Make an inventory of your valuables, household goods, and furniture for insurance purposes, and document it with photographs. If the power goes off in your area, you may not have access to banks and teller machines, so you might want to keep some cash on hand as well. Our pets are important family members, so planning for their well-being during a disaster should be a part of your preparedness plan. Keep at least a 2-week supply of food for each pet in an airtight, waterproof container. Store the same food that your pet normally eats and replace it every 3 months. If your pet eats canned food, buy single-serving cans, since you may not be able to refrigerate the leftovers. And don't forget to have a manual can opener and a spoon or scoop for the food. Although pets don't require purified water for their daily diet, they are susceptible to disease and illness from contaminated water. So store a 2-week supply of water for each pet, along with an extra dish and any other supplies your pets need. If you have a cat, it will be safer indoors, so be sure to have a litter box, a scoop, and plenty of cat litter. Toys and treats can be useful to make your pet more comfortable and reduce stress. A pet first aid kit should be stored with your emergency medical supplies. It's also a good idea to prepare by learning first aid for your pet. A variety of first aid kits, books, and videos are all available. Check with your veterinarian if you have any questions, and if your pet is taking long-term medication, ask about keeping an extra supply on hand. Make sure each pet wears a collar and identification tag that lists your name, address, and telephone number. This applies even to cats that stay indoors, because in an emergency situation, they might be able to escape and get lost. It's a good idea to keep a photograph of your pet and your pet's medical records with your valuable papers. If you have to evacuate your home, do not leave your pets behind. You will need to have a separate carrier for each cat. If your cat may have to be confined for a long time, make sure the carrier is large enough to hold food and water dishes and a litter box. Keep these with the carrier, along with the cat litter, a litter scoop, and plastic bags. You may also want to have a harness and leash for your cat so that you can let it out of the carrier for exercise. A frightened dog might slip out of its collar, so a harness is also a good idea for walking your dog. A stake that screws into the ground and a length of rope will let you keep your dog outside if a fenced area is not available. Remember that even a normally friendly dog may be tempted to bite in stressful situations, so consider keeping a muzzle in your emergency pet supplies as well. Keep in mind that emergency shelters may not allow pets, so if you think you may have to evacuate, make arrangements for your pet in advance. Find hotels or motels which accept pets, or look for boarding facilities away from your immediate area. Your pets trust you to take good care of them, and they give you a lifetime of love in return. A little planning now will help you keep them safe if disaster strikes. Take a few minutes and think about what emergency situations you might want to prepare for. What goods or services might be affected? How long might disruptions last? Preparation takes time, planning, and cooperation. By working together and starting now, your family can meet the future with confidence.